Hello everyone and welcome to Sunburned Albino roasts and votes for the 2024 Game Awards nominees. 2024 was like 2021 and 2022 combined. You had a little of the sparsity or lack of interest in the games from 2021, but also a couple of good big names a la 2022. Hell, one of them's even Elden Ring again. Plenty to say about that and more when the time comes. This year didn't have many snubs, at least there were less than there could have been, but some of the stuff there sure shouldn't be. Let's start with everyone's favorite section. Best Esports Team. Always fun to see which Koreans and exotic white people get nominated here. It's always the cast of Squid Game versus Assassin's Creed Valhalla. If someone's holding an esports trophy, it's either a 90-pound Korean dude with 7 e-girls on speed dial, or a guy named Jurgen whose dad's a blacksmith. I don't vote for esports categories, let's move on to the next one. Best Esports Athlete, and there's Faker, a familiar name if not face. I looked it up, this motherfucker's first nomination was in 2015, and over the last 9 years, he's been nominated 7 times, winning twice. I used this guy's archetype in Metaphor Refantasio. He was debuffing the shit out of enemies, very clutch. We've got some other good names here, though, like 33, which is a number, and how black people refer to Harry S. Truman. Then you have Alexib, which is just the guy's real name with a B at the end. Very cool. You've got Chovy, just missing the An. Zaiwu, whose name seems like it should be under one of these other portraits instead. And down here you've got ZMJJKK, which sounds like the acronym of a sex cult. Bro's biggest fan is Allison Mack. No vote, of course. Moving on to Best Esports Game, and potentially the biggest snub of all. You're all worried about individual games getting shafted, but they forgot to put in a whole category. Where's Best Esports Coach? That's been the lifeblood of my video series for years. How can you have a Game Awards without a Best Esports Coach? That's like football with no water boy. As far as the games are concerned, it's everything you expect, except Mobile Legends Bang Bang, which sounds like what I'd do to myself before I ever downloaded that. This game came out in 2016 and I've never heard of it. It's never been nominated before. What game's heyday doesn't start until 8 years after it launches? Watch out guys, next year is going to be the return of PUBG. No vote here. Content Creator of the Year is here, and the nominees from left to right are Tim the Tatman, Bad Bunny, Batter Bunny, Logic, and one of Iron Mouse's alts. Now all their fan bases get to be mad at me together. I don't know these people. I watched a trailer for an upcoming pizza restaurant game, and someone in the comments was like, "Oh my god, Casio needs to play this." That's the extent of my familiarity. I only know because I don't get to choose what happens on my Twitter feed, that the VTuber is like the biggest VTuber in Japan or something, and apparently Hideo Kojima watches her, which is enough reason for me not to give a shit. Is she sponsored by Monster Energy too? We're Kojima haters in this house. I can't wait for him to take up 10 minutes of the broadcast again this year to show us absolutely nothing while Jeff Keighley drools in the background. Shout out to Jeff, man. He puts up with tons of hate, and a decent chunk of it's from me. No vote here. Next we have Most Anticipated Game, and none of the games from last year are on here. Interesting. Mostly because they all came out, but still. You know what's not on here anymore that still hasn't come out? Broken Promises, Squandered Hype, no Kingdom Hearts 4, Hollow Knight Silksong, or Elder Scrolls 6. These games don't even exist in the public consciousness anymore. It's been radio silence for years. Do we all still see Silksong in all caps in the chat of every major and minor games showcase? Yes, but it's not the same. It's emptier. It's hollow, like an echo with no hope left to fuel it. As for what's actually here, of course Jeff cleared a slot for Kojima. Here you are, sir. May I park your car as well? Death Stranding 2 On the Beach. Please tell me that's a working title. Can't wait for Ghost of Tsushima 2 In a Field. Everything this dude names turns into a meme. Ghost of Yotei will be a banger for sure. GTA 6 is itself. Metroid Prime 4 is cool, and I tried the Monster Hunter Wilds demo, but I don't think I've ever seen a control scheme or gameplay mechanics more at odds with who I am as a person. I'll vote for Ghost of Yotei here. Best Adaptation, act like I watched any of these, just skip it. Best Multiplayer, I've put a little time into this year's Call of Duty, and it's actually pretty decent. Most of the maps suck, but I like using the marksman rifles, and Zombies is better than it's been recently for sure. Helldivers 2 is weird because everyone loved it at first, and then they did like the worst community support of all time for months and drove people away, and then I guess afterwards they started being good again and people came back. I did not come back. To be fair, I left before people even started complaining. I just don't think the game is that compelling, and that's coming from one of the few who actually played Helldivers 1 back in the day. Super Mario Party Jamboree is one of the better Mario parties, but it is kind of insane that it took 3 attempts on Switch for them to finally make the Mario Party that they were trying to do the whole time but just failing at. Like, Super Mario Party was great, but it didn't have online boards for no reason until years later. Then they did Mario Party Superstars to bring back some of the best mini games of old, and the boards did have online, but there were only 5 and they sucked ass, and they also removed like 10 playable characters because Mario Party doesn't know how to be Mario Party. Now we finally have Jamboree, which combines good things from each previous attempt. The boards are plentiful and good with online, the mini games are decent, and there's a lot more characters. It still isn't like incredible, but it's trending upwards. For me, it's between Call of Duty and Mario Party. I didn't play the last two, but I think down the road Black Ops 6 will get better with more maps and zombies, whereas Mario Party will probably get nothing, while its creators are hard at work trying to find a bonehead way to ruin the next one. I'll vote Call of Duty. Best sports/racing is next. This category always looks so bland to me when there's no kart racer or Mario sports game in it, which is almost always. Realistic sports just sounds horrendous. I did IRL tennis for 15 years. You will never catch my ass playing a realistic tennis sim. I hope they make a new Mario Tennis soon. Aces was super fun online. Next is Best Sim/Strategy, and we get to give the Win by Default award to Unicorn Overlord for being the only game I played. It's very good though, a bit bloated, but it gives you a nice mix of Fire Emblem customization and strategy with RTS tactics and auto battle combat. I vote Unicorn Overlord. Next we have Best Family, and I've decided that this just means whatever the best game in the category is, regardless of how someone would integrate it into a family setting. Like, I don't care if Mario Party is more inclusive to more members of a family, or if Princess Peach is more distracting for your young daughters so you can leave them in front of the TV by themselves for longer to run over to the liquor store and hope the guy who sells Percocet is there. The best game in this list is Astrobot, so that is what gets my vote. Kids won't even appreciate the nostalgia bait. Fuck them. This game is for the best member of the family, me. Best Fighting Game might be the most embarrassing category of the year this time around. What in the name of all that is holy is Multiverses doing here? One of the single worst fighting games of all time. A game so bad they delisted it, worked on it for a year, and re-released it worse. All that incredible IP wasted on trash. Raven and the Powerpuff Girls deserve to be in a game that could actually compete with Smash. How are you gonna nominate Multiverses when Rivals of Ether 2 is right there? I watched tournament footage. That game actually looks fun and fresh. Sure, before the main menu it asks if you're a furry, and if you say no it automatically refunds the game for you, but literally anything is better than Multiverses. I'm voting Tekken 8. Best RPG is where the 5 gods of 2024 reign, except one of them is a fucking DLC. DLC is nominated, not only for Best RPG, but Game of the Year. One of the gods said, oh, there's a God of the Year competition? Let me grow a third leg and nominate it. Not me, just my leg. I sure hope my leg beats all those other whole-ass gods with entire bodies and everything. I don't care how good you think Shadow of the Erdtree is. It's an add-on. It's not a game. It being the only thing you played this year doesn't change that. You want DLC to be recognized? Tell them to make a DLC category, because they absolutely should instead of polluting the important ones. If Metaphor loses this category to a 2022 game that decided to keep going, I'm gonna be pissed. But this list is full of heavy hitters, even if one was completely broken at launch and nobody ever talks about it anymore. Only heard good things about Rebirth and Infinite Wealth, but I still have to vote for Metaphor here. It's just better Persona. Next is Best Action/Adventure, and it's an eclectic cast of characters. You've got colorful platformer, Metroidvania, unfortunately made by Ubisoft, horror game remake, open world snooze-a-thon, and playable Zelda. Echoes of Wisdom is neat. I don't know if it deserves an adjective more passionate than that. Outlaws is generic mediocrity that pretentious media literacy Twitter snobs would refer to as slop to farm likes and smell each other's farts. I really hate that word and how it's used to describe anything that terminally cynical people don't recognize as perfection, but it applies accurately here. I never played Silent Hill 2, but people seem to like it. Prince of Persia is an example of how you can take the foundations of a good game and then give it to Ubisoft, and they will find ways to just bring it down to their level. They have this system where you can only pin a limited number of pins to the map to remind you where stuff is if you can't get to it now, and this is a Metroidvania, which means there are a lot of things you can't get to to until you get certain traversal abilities. Like, not only is there no point to limiting that other than to be a dick, but you can increase the max amount of pins by finding certain items in chests, which makes chests inherently less valuable because nobody wants to open a chest hoping for a cool item or upgrade and get max map pin increase instead. Good rule for game design: only have as many chests as you have meaningful things to put in them. Don't litter the landscape with trash. This game could have been worth the nomination if Ubisoft had no part in it. Astrobot is a nostalgia factory baked into a gorgeous and functionally competent platformer. It plays well, but beyond that there's an excitement of what's around the corner that permeates the whole thing. Am I going to recognize the next bot I save? Is the next level going to be beautifully technologically impressive and have a cool power-up or gimmick? And Astrobot entirely delivers. Anyone deriding it for being a Mario clone or whatever, bitch, you wish the Switch was capable of half this level of power. Imagine a Mario game with Astrobot graphics and hardware quality. We should be that spoiled, but we live in the bad universe where Nintendo's only recent innovations come from new ways to sue people. Anyway, I vote Astrobot here. Coming up is Best Action Game, and we see Black Myth Wukong and Stellar Blade, two snub dodgers that DEI couldn't deny. That said, people were upset that Stellar Blade didn't get nominated for Best Art Direction, as if the majority of the game doesn't take place in a bland wasteland. Wow, these deserts and canyons and sewers are so beautiful. Eve is the only thing in the game that isn't hard to look at, but no amount of stripper costumes can inflate this game to anything beyond decent. I appreciate that the main character hasn't been ugified to appease people with low self-esteem who see attractiveness as oppression, but the game itself is just alright. Black Myth Wukong, on the other hand, is very good. Still some quibbles I have, but this game could show Elden Ring a thing or two about boss variety. 90 plus fights in this game and only a handful are reskins. I didn't play Warhammer, and we've talked about the rest already. I'm gonna go ahead and vote for Black Myth Wukong here. Best VR is a category I have no skin in because I've never owned a VR and never will until they get all Sword Art Online with it. When you can actually transport me into the game, I'll fucking live there. But until then, I'll save my money. I do want to say though that Metal Hellsinger is a fantastic game that I platinumed recently, and few games manage to create an atmosphere as electric as this one does by default, so I can only imagine that VR heightens it even further. I'll vote for it on faith. Now we have Best Mobile Game. Of these 5, only one of them doesn't let you gamble real money every day, yet only one of them was pulled from digital stores and forced to be re-rated on account of gambling. Both of them are Balatro. I don't know if they ever fixed that debacle, but Balatro is literally just poker solitaire with roguelike modifiers. You win fake money to spend on jokers with random effects on a per-run basis. It's single player. Meanwhile, all these gacha clones will bankrupt you in real life the first chance they get by drastically overinflating the cost of their market in comparison to the value you get from it. You can hop on a digital store and buy a Game of the Year contender for 15 or 20 bucks, or you can hop on a Genshin clone and spend $100 for a chance at getting a single character, or a buff for said character. It's like a cult. You're literally brainwashed into forgetting the true value of money. Pokemon trading card game Pocket is barely a game. I've had it downloaded since day one. I play it for no more than 2 minutes a day to get my daily pack openings. There's nothing to do. You can battle online, but there's negligible rewards for doing so. Everyone uses the same deck anyway. There's negligible rewards for basically everything. There's no point to doing almost anything. All you do is pull, and then if you get an EX card, you're like, hell yeah, and then you don't do anything with it, and you just stare at it, and then you go about your day. And even this game has the gall to have premium subscriptions and let you throw real money at it. You want dollar signs? Be worth it. I vote Balatro here. I put like 13 hours into that. Best Debut Indie Game. I'm never in the loop on which games are debuts or aren't, so I have no list of snubs here, but for what we do have, it's the Animal Well and Balatro show. Animal Well is a Metroidvania puzzle game. There's no combat, it's just hundreds of puzzles, and hundreds of puzzles hidden beneath the surface of the hundreds of puzzles. It's a puzzler's wet dream, basically. Now, I love Metroidvanias, but I'm not huge on puzzles. I don't have the puzzle-solving autism, I have the says the wrong thing at social gatherings kind. Balatro is a roguelike, and I love roguelikes. I also enjoy poker, and so Balatro is more for me and gets my vote here. Best Independent Game, now we can talk about snubs. This category is always the most snubbed every year, without fail. There's always several games that aren't on here that should be, but the list is notably smaller, so me saying them quickly in a row won't have the same effect as it has in the past, but I'm doing it anyway. Corekeeper, Nine Sols, Chained Together, Angerfoot. That's all I got. I have no idea what Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is. Neva is by the people who did Grease, so I do actually want to check that out at some point. Same with UFO 50, because that's basically an anthology of 50 retro-styled indie games designed with modern sensibilities and kind of its own MCU thing going on, like the same characters showing up in different kinds of games. Seems cool, but I live in an apartment where the rent keeps going up and I don't have the disposable income I used to, so I gotta wait on some of these. I'll vote Balatro here. Best community support? I don't care. It's been supported without me. I don't play any of these games still. I've been trying to finish a playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3 with friends for what seems like years, and it never gets past Act 1, and then it's been too long, so we start over, and it never gets past Act 1 again. No vote. Best ongoing? Same thing. Therefore, it's the same thing. No vote. Games for Impact is here. Tough to make an impact when the average peak player count is about 35. I think they've got the description all wrong here. It says, a thought-provoking game with a pro-social meaning or message. Why does it have to have that to be impactful? When I think of the games that most impacted me, I think of ones that destroyed me mentally, like Doki Doki Literature Club or Danganronpa or Amori. Games for Impact should include games that just fuck you up. They shouldn't have to sell you a board-approved ideology. I do think it's hilarious that Dragon Age the Veilguard isn't here. This is like clearly the one category they were trying to reach with all that shit. Oops, I misgendered someone, now I must do 50 push-ups and beg for forgiveness. I can get a kick out of a Life is Strange game sometimes, but I haven't checked out Double Exposure yet. Honestly, I've played 0 of these games and had only heard of 3 of them previously, so no vote. Now we have Innovation and Accessibility, which Dragon Age did manage to get as a consolation prize. You may not have made an impact on the trans community, but at least you gave them more cosmetic options to avoid. You're telling me nobody wants to give their character top surgery scars as anything but a joke? No way, I don't believe you. No vote here. Best Performance is next, and I see they didn't listen to my extremely thoughtful suggestion of putting character portraits next to the voice actor portraits so we can see who they actually voiced. I literally can't guess which characters half these people did. It just says the actor's name and the game. Is Brianna White Aerith or Tifa or Jules for all I know? Luke Roberts? If there's more than one dude in Silent Hill 2, I'm cooked, sorry. I assume the chick unfortunate enough to be named Humberly voiced the main character in Outlaws because she looks like a prettier version of the character, as is trendy now. Hey, you're a 9. Can we mocap all your facial features and make you a 6? Just from what I've seen of trailers in the first game, I think you have to vote Melina for Hellblade. Best audio design goes to Astrobot straight away. They were ahead of the curve ever since Astro's Playroom, and this is just an evolution of that. Now for best score and music. I guess Silent Hill isn't aptly named. Astrobot has some fun bangers. I still sing to myself in my head that thing where they go, "What did you say your name was?" It's addicting. Stellar Blade has a cool vibe with its soundtrack too. Its theme during the first city level stuck with me for a while, but I think if you actually sit down and listen without gameplay distractions, there is nothing more hype than Metaphor's main battle theme is insane. It's so much fun. Find a clip by itself on YouTube and listen to it loud. I vote Metaphor. Best art direction is here, with one nominee we're ignoring for the rest of the video. I actually don't think Metaphor deserves this one. The animation is choppy, it's got really washed out colors, it looks like a Switch game. Visually, it's on par with Fire Emblem Three Houses, and that shit was rough graphically. If you see the way Astrobot can handle 9 million individual items on screen that are all interactable, like if you beat a level and it explodes into 1,000 apples you can knock around without slowing down even a little, that's impressive enough for me to vote for Astrobot. Next up is Best Narrative, and this is one I'm absolutely voting Metaphor for. The main concept of anyone can become king if you can just get enough people to believe in you is so cool for a video game, and to then turn it into a contest anyone can enter and try to help your community with requests to curry favor is just very compelling. I vote Metaphor. Best Game Direction is here, with all the nominees that are also nominated for Game of the Year. As far as game design goes, if we're elevating that to a higher importance for this category, I honestly don't know what I'd vote for. Metaphor takes many of Persona's systems and tweaks them in ways that are a lot more convenient, like bonds not being tied to dialogue choices and efficient use of the calendar being less necessary to optimize, as well as changes to combat that I enjoy and allowing for overworld auto-slaying of enemies that are lower level than you so it doesn't take a million years to grind pointless turn-based battles against fodder. Black Myth Wukong makes big strides in boss design, most of them are unique and interesting. Balatro is just simple enough to break through to non-gamer audiences, but varied enough to keep them engaged. If Candy Crush is mom's game, then Balatro is dad's. It helps that poker is already a non-gamer hobby, and this is just that with a twist. Astrobot is obviously a great platformer, but its integration of nostalgia was definitely weaponized to keep PlayStation fans glued to their screens through the whole runtime. Like, there's something to be said for that. I didn't play Rebirth, I liked Remake, but I wasn't gripped enough to pay $70 more for another third of a story. I guess when it comes down to it, I appreciate the optimizations and conveniences of Metaphor more than anything else, and I really hope Persona 6 keeps some of that intact so I don't have to have a guide open the whole time playing it. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for, Game of the Year. 5 games. 5 noteworthy, complete games, purchasable as standalone products from stores. Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio. So which of these only 5 games is most deserving of the crown? I feel like I've already said all I need to about each of these, so as you may expect, I'm voting Metaphor. Not that it makes a difference though, because our votes only count for 10%, while the board of game journalists and even non-gaming outlets worldwide that are affiliated with the Game Awards get the rest of the 90. That's why there's a player's voice category, because our voices don't matter anywhere else. Teehee! Well, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Watch all my other videos while listening to the and I'll see you guys next time.